What's up, community? My name is Professor Kane, and this is Relationomics, the show that looks at the uncanny parallels between economics and relationships, and yes, there are many. Today we're going to be talking about supply and demand. Now, most of you may not know economics. You're wondering, Professor Kane, what in the world is supply and demand? Let me explain it to you. So supply and demand goes something a little bit like this. You create this graph hither, and on this graph, you have two parties involved in economics. Those are sellers and buyers. So now buyers, they're the ones who want goods. They have a demand for goods. And the way that we express that is in what's called a demand curve. Now, a demand curve looks a little bit like this. It's got a downward slope. Basically what this says, this x-axis down here is quantity. This y-axis is price. And what this kind of means is that the less of something there is, the more people are willing to pay for it. Think of like diamonds. Diamonds, the curve would be out here for that particular product. People are willing to pay more because there are fewer diamonds in circulation right now. So that's a little bit of how demand works. And like over on this side, that'd be like water. There's a lot of water. World's 70% water. We're not going to run out of it anytime soon. And because there's so much water, people are not willing to pay a lot for it. So we have this really low ranking on the price axis. And that's basically how demand works. Pretty simple. Now we're going to talk about supply. Now the sellers, they're the ones who generate supply. The supply curve looks a little bit like this. It's got an upward slope, like that. And what it means is the more something costs, the more people are going to make it. So to illustrate this, let's think about cars. Like when cars first came out back in the 18 whatever. People were dumping their life savings into buying a car. People were paying so much for them that eventually more people decided to produce them. Think about fidget spinners. Everybody has a fidget spinner. They give away fidget spinners for free at booths. Nobody wants to be making fidget spinners right now because the price for them is so astronomically low. So nobody wants a fidget spinner. Nobody wants to make fidget spinners. They're gross. Should have died in 2016. Now, as the price increases, more and more people are interested in making whatever it is. And the point where this demand curve and the supply curve meet, this point right here, this is called an equilibrium. What this means is that at this price and at this quantity, everybody that wants a thing has that thing. So that's a little rundown of how supply and demand work. Now, we're going to turn it into girls. Now, the way that this works is pretty similar. Exact same concept, except the sellers, now these are guys. Guys are the sellers in our model just because we're all offering the same thing. Like let's not kid ourselves and think that some of us are better. We're all the same. Now, girls are the buyers. They take a look at all these different products out there, and they decide, yep, I want this one. So girls in our scenario, they're going to be the buyers. Now, we're going to get into supply and demand. Now, here we create the supply curve. Now, the supply curve, that is your investment in a girl. The supply curve, that is your interest in a girl. The attraction that you supply to her. All right? And now this is demand. Demand, likewise, that's the girl's interest in you. And here, that's our equilibrium. This point, that's where we are at. At any given place on this graph, the point, the equilibrium, that is the current scenario right now. All right, that's important to keep in mind. So now I can hear you screaming in the comments, Professor Kane, that's great and all. It's wonderful that we've identified supply and demand, but how does this help me at all? Fear not, students. We'll get into it. This zone right here, it's a pretty big zone, pretty comfortable zone. This is the place where you want to be. This is called the MAZ. That stands for Mutual Attraction Zone. That's when the girl is interested in you, you are interested in the girl, and the equilibrium falls in the mutual attraction zone. That's a good place to be. That's where you want to be. Wonderful. Now, we're going to make it even better. This line right here. What that line is going to be is what's called the golden zone. Right here, we're dealing with something very rare. This is a guy and a girl who are perfectly attracted to each other. The reason it's called The golden zone is because this is about as rare as finding gold in a sandbox. It's not going to happen. And if it does, it's not going to happen for very long. So here we have our mutual attraction zone, and here we have our golden zone. That's the ideal scenario. This place right here, that's where your relationships come in. That's where you get boyfriends, girlfriends. Most marriages are here. It's a good place to be. It's exactly where you want to be. All right, so now that we've established where you want to be, this is the good place. Now we're going to go elsewhere. We're going to veer into uncharted territory. Let's go. So now this guy right here, we're going to talk about this box. This hither box, when your equilibrium falls here, it means that this girl, she has the same level of attraction toward you. She's indifferent toward you. Means nothing. But the reason that the equilibrium ends up here is because your supply for her, your interest in her, your investment in her gets pushed out over here. We're creating a new supply curve when the equilibrium falls right here in this hither rectangle. Now this is not a good place to be. You do not want to be here. This is the antithesis of where you want to be. This, my friends, is called the friend zone. You don't want to be here. You want to get out of here as soon as possible. And this is one of the most unfortunate things that can happen to a young man. Now, I don't think I really need to go into this one. I'm sure you're all familiar with what this looks like. When she's complaining about guys to you, you're in the friend zone. When she's asking you for a foot massage and you're not dating, you're in the friend zone. If she wants you to eat ice cream with her and watch rom-coms, you're probably in the friend zone. But if you stick around till the end, I'm going to tell you how to get out of the friend zone. And it works. So now we've moved on from the friend zone and we're in this other box down here. Now this box, this is when your supply to a girl, your investment in a girl, that stays the same. That doesn't really change at all. You're indifferent. But her demand in you has gone down significantly. So her demand goes from indifferent to dislike. This may be even worse than a friend zone. You don't want to be here. Now this here is the gross zone. It's called many things. It's called the L zone. It's called the creep zone. It's not anything you want to mess with. And this, of course, means that girls are just not into you. Girls are not interested in you, and that's the reality. Now this is the kind of guy that tries to date every single girl, but every single girl isn't interested in him because he's gross. These are like your neckbeards, antisocial, Facebook stalkers. If you still don't know the kind of person I'm talking about, go online, say you're a female under the age of 50, you're going to get flocks of these guys coming towards you. Now, moving on. Tell me, Professor Kane, this has been so educational so far. I've learned so much. It's been so wonderful. Well, that's awesome, because we are not done yet. This is not the entire graph. That's okay, because we're not finished. Now we're going to talk about this guy right here. This is when her demand for you stays pretty much the same. But your supply for her has gone from here to here. It goes back significantly. You are less interested, you're less invested in her than she is in you. We find our equilibrium right here, and this zone we call the XHI zone. Now, I know you're saying, Brady, what in the world is XHI? That's not a word. It's definitely not an English word. Well, the XHI zone, the way to pronounce XHI is That's how you pronounce XHI. If you're in the zone, this is the hands off. This, of course, means that we're talking about the girls that you, put politely, don't want to invest in. And just for convenience, we're going to also call this the no zone. You don't go here. It's a no-go. We don't do this. Now, ideally, 0% of your time should be spent in the no zone. Listen, there's a reason the supply curve shifted. It's better if we just don't stay here. Be polite, be friendly, be cordial, but don't play in here. Now, this last zone, this is one of the scariest zones on the map. Scarier than the gross zone, scarier than the zone. Now, this is good, so it's obviously scarier than that. But this is the most terrifying zone that you can find yourself in. The supply curve is mostly the same. You're indifferent as to yes or no. Your supply for her has not changed at all. But her demand for you has gone through the roof. It's ridiculous. It's to unhealthy proportions. It's obsessive, which is why we call this zone right here the unhealthy obsession zone. Now, this is a scary, scary place. This is where you see stuff like closet shrines, like 20-minute Snapchat stories of just blank screens and texts. You'll see Facebook posts that are just a blurred screen in the background and like an inspirational quote that's like, "You're so great, so don't let the haters hate." That's where you see this. This is scary stuff. Now, see, this is the kind of thing that you laugh off with your buddies, but deep down you're actually terrified that you're going to wind up trapped in her house somewhere. And naturally, if your equilibrium is here, you are the guy that she's complaining to the friend zone guy about. Now we have covered the entirety of our graph. Stuff either falls into the zone, unhealthy obsession zone, mutual attraction zone, golden zone if you're very, very lucky, but it probably won't, friend zone, and the gross zone. Now, I'm a man who keeps my word. As promised, I'm going to tell you how to get out of the friend zone. Now, it's actually really simple, and it really does work. The way to get out of the friend zone is to decrease supply. It sounds really simple, it sounds ridiculous, but it is just that simple. When you start being more independent, when you start communicating confidence, when you start needing her less, you're going to leave something to be desired. And then she's going to realize, oh wait, I forgot how much I liked this person's company. I didn't realize how much this person meant to me. So by shifting supply, demand inherently shifts too. Relationships are hard, given. But strangely enough, it's not rocket science. It's economics. Thanks for watching and stay salty. This Professor Kane, oops, screwed up the intro.